Welcome back to another episode of Salmon Pals Go to the Movies. This is another Throwback Thursday review. I'm here with my friend Touly. Say hi, Touly.
Hi, guys.
And today we're going to be reviewing Pushing 10. And just fair warning, there's going to be spoilers up ahead, so you've been warned. A feud develops between two air traffic controllers, one cocky and determined, while the other is restrained and laid back, which in the end affects both their lives. My first pro is we got John Cusack, Billy Bob Thornton, Cate Blanchett, and Angelina Jolie. Great acting from great actors, with a minor issue that I'm going to get into later. Next on my list is I enjoyed the beginning of the film. Inside the control tower, seeing everybody moving planes around, trying not to let them crash into each other. This gave me a sense of danger and how they were avoiding the danger. Okay, now moving on to my cons. The issue I mentioned before about the acting was they had a weak script and weak overall story that didn't get developed to get me to care enough about the characters. This alone didn't help the actors act, if that makes sense. For example, John Cusack's character Nick, since the start of the movie, he was arrogant and seemed like he wanted to cheat, so when he did and got caught, I really didn't feel bad for him, and I didn't really care about his side of the story. Next, the story could have been saved by either focusing on the danger of air traffic controlling and having John Cusack's character Nick and Billy Bob Thornton's character Russell finding themselves in a big problem where they had to set their egos aside and work together to save lives, and by doing so they come to respect each other and become basically okay with each other. Or focus on the love side of the story and have Nick end up divorcing his wife and reflecting on his mistake for sleeping with Russell's wife, while Russell and his wife end up living together and being happy, and Nick closing the movie alone with no job, no wife, full of stress, and giving his summary about how not to be an asshole in life or you will end up like him. Instead, live a life like Russell and just be happy. Bottom line, this movie had some scenes that made me think that it was going to be saved, like the bomb threat scene or the reveal that Russell changed Nick's plane route to land a plane with a person who was having a heart attack, and that was basically a big deal because he saved the day overall. There was some sort of ways that they could have saved this movie, but in the end, it never happened. There was no saving grace for this movie. Some character development never happened. The characters never went anywhere. So for me, it was a big flop. So I guess with that, I'm going to pass it on to my friend Touly and see how he saw this movie and what grade he gave this movie.
Yeah, so I think I'm pretty much in the same boat here. The story was pretty bland. It didn't help that the characters themselves were pretty much underdeveloped and saw no believable transformation. In this case, it's John Cusack's character for the most part, because he's the guy who you're following and seeing him to outdo Russell because of jealousy. He's the new guy on the block and he appears to be the guy that everybody is turning to now, so he's being left behind. Whatever personal feelings that he can't seem to come to grasp, he's directing that towards Russell and his wife and to whomever, really, just to ensure that his spotlight is still there. Yeah, I just didn't believe that he went from this guy of, as Sal pointed, of being arrogant to a guy who is now humble and has learned from his mistakes or from who he is due to the experiences that he went through here. I mean, the movie tried to make it seem that Russell was the catalyst for change in a way, but I felt that a lot of the things that happened between him and Russell, that in a way, for John Cusack's character to make it seem like he was quote unquote winning or was trying to win at whatever that they were trying to compete in. It felt that John Cusack's character, Nick, wasn't ever going to win because Russell was somehow always put at the top in the end regardless. For example, the basketball scene, even though Russell was able to break the free throw record and John Cusack trying to make him look bad thereafter by placing the bet, having Russell to try to make a 3-point shot, even though Russell missed, he somehow, I guess if you want to call it fate or whatever, was able to still come out on top of Nick because of his wife and how she reacted after the fact in front of everybody. To the bomb hoax, where to me, that scene was just ridiculous in my eyes because because if there was really a bomb threat like that, I would have expected everybody to have been like evacuated from the building and be as far as they can from it. But when we saw John Cusack's character run out of the building and did that awful dive just for the sake of trying to make it dramatic and to sort of paint this picture of Russell being the hero later on in the newscast, we saw like everybody still standing out there by the building. So the fact that they weren't treating this situation as seriously as it should, despite Nick and Russell's effort to try to still land these planes, I mean, to me, that pretty much sums up the movie. You're trying to treat this movie seriously, you know, in some ways by showing off this character, Nick. He's arrogant, he's a jerk, but you want him to change for the better. And yet, the way you handle it just wasn't to the degree that it needed to be in order to put all of these comedic or like nonsensical things that happened around him to even matter. So, with Russell always coming out on top due to, again, fate or luck or whatever, and Nick never getting the upper hand, I would have just liked it if Russell was actually involved in one or two of these, to point out to Nick specifically that, hey, dude, I know the type of person who you are, and I don't like it. And the reason I did what I did is because I think you kind of deserve it. I would have just liked it more if he or something, some sort of intervention came along that pointed out his flaws, and then for the third act of the film, for Nick to reflect upon this. But the third act was like so short, from when his wife leaves him to Nick being temporarily asked to go home because he had two incidents at his work that could have caused the death of many lives, to him just moping at home, to him all of a sudden going to visit Russell and seeking his advice to get his life back in order, to the solution being, oh, let's go and stand out in this runway, and that being the revelation that Nick needed to get his life together. Like, to me, it made no complete sense. So I would definitely argue that a movie like Anger Management with Adam Sandler and Jack Nicholson, that movie did a better job at kind of conveying the sort of concept that this film, I feel like, should have gone after, and then in the end made me believe, you know, that Adam Sandler's character in his respective film was one that needed change, and then through the help of Jack Nicholson's character and his interventions was able to assist Adam Sandler's character to become better. Like, I feel like that was more believable, far more than what happened in this film. So for this film here, for Pushing 10, I'm gonna give it a 3 out of 10. Like I said, it was very difficult for me to grasp to anything that I would say I liked about it. Maybe, you know, just say that, you know, I recognize the cast, right? And usually that's like my go-to if I can't really find anything else good to say about the film. So it's not a very good sign in the end.
I totally agree with you. They had a chance to save this movie. For example, with the bomb threat, we could have basically said that Angelina Jolie's character, Russell's wife, made the call just so they both can work it out. You know, they were staying there and they could have teamed up and saved the day, somehow work it out as buddies. And then Russell would have basically still left, and John Cusack's character, Nick, would have been like, okay, I'm going to change, you know, my ways. But nothing like that ever happened. The characters never developed for me, and this movie was 2 hours long, and for a movie to be 2 hours long and nothing to happen, that's way too long for me. So I'm gonna give it a 3 out of 10. So I guess that does it for this review of Pushing 10. Please join us next time when we are going to review El Mariachi.
Lo que quería era solamente ser un mariachi, como mis antepasados. Pero la ciudad que pensé que me traía suerte trajo maldición.
Please like, comment, and subscribe. You can find our social media links below. And like always, keep watching movies.